Welcome back, viewers, to my channel, and we're on episode 12 now, Life at Dapchari. So, last episode, episode 11, we discussed life at the Vankas bungalow. And what happened was, when I must have been about 3 or maybe a little less, mom and dad had to discuss their next move because dad's project was done. The units had been prepared and the project had been handed over, and I guess people had been allotted the houses and their areas to farm in, and then they had moved in. So now that dad's project was done, he had to decide what were his next steps. So dad had always wanted to start a business. He wanted to do a dairy and poultry business. So mom told him, it seems, that if you want to do a business, now is the right time before the kids start school or are old enough that you don't keep changing their schools. And now is when you can take some risks. We can afford that you take some risks right now. Later, when the kids are older, we will need more financial stability. So, whatever ups and downs are there at the beginning of a business, this is a good time for those. So then dad decided, ironically, to take one of those units from a farmer, wherein he would buy it from that farmer and he would run his business from there. So dad bought the unit from one of the underprivileged farmers who had been allotted the unit. And since mom and dad had a farmer background, they both came from a rural area. Mom wanted this kind of setup. She was happy to live in an open place and fields around her, and she loves gardening. To this date, she loves gardening. So she always wanted like fields and trees around her. So she was happy with this kind of setup. So, ironically, the place that dad was instrumental in creating for the poor is where he became a resident. So, basically, all our neighbors were poor, underprivileged farmers. Again, here I did not belong. Neither were we Maharashtrians. So, we stood out like sore thumbs. Nor did we have any similar background as our neighbors. So, obviously, they did not consider us one of them. So there's this phrase in Hindi, na ghar ke na ghat ke. So we did not live with Punjabis in our area. So I could not relate with those people. And here I could relate with these people. I felt like this was my home, these were my people. But they could not relate with us because to them we were outsiders. So basically I belonged nowhere. So we did not even have a similar socio-economic background as them. So obviously they saw us as different. So this farm, it was very nice in the sense the outer edges of our farm were at a stream, and it was a very beautiful stream. We loved to play over there. So me, my sister and some of the neighboring kids, we would go up to the stream, play in it, and it had these beautiful smooth rounded pebbles at its base, and we used to walk over these smooth moss laced pebbles, stones, which we basically shouldn't fall off. So we would be walking on very slippery stones, and then we would go across to the other side of the stream. So I don't know how many feet wide it was, probably like 20 feet or so. And we used to just walk across, placing our feet on those pebbles and cross over to the other side. And the other side had some pretty foliage, and one tree in particular we were fascinated by. So this tree was basically 7 types of trees all growing together. So they were like the trunks of 7 different types of trees somehow growing together, and they looked like one trunk, but you could identify that they were different types of trees. And as the tree rose up, you could see the different types of leaves in the different directions. So it was fascinating for us to look at this tree. And something else I remember from that place was there were these Indian berries which we used to call bear or berry, and they were very tasty. And then there were some other bushes also which had some really interesting berries to eat, but I don't remember what they're called. One of them, you would just pluck it off the bush, pop the cover. It was a paper thin kind of cover, fluffy, and you kind of hit it on your palm of your other hand, and then you popped it open, and inside was a sweet, sour, lovely, tangy berry. So we enjoyed having that. So we used to just walk around. We used to pick up bear off the bushes. Then we used to have this other little berry. And another thing that fascinated me over there was this, I don't know from what tree. So there were these seeds which were very shiny and they were bright red. And then there was black at one edge of it. And they looked so beautiful to me that I used to collect them. I used to collect hundreds, and I used to imagine that one day I would make little holes in all of them and make jewelry out of them. I literally believed I would do that. So I used to just collect those seeds and keep lots of them with myself. This place also had a mandir, and I remember the mandir, I found it very beautiful. There was the Nandi bell at the entrance, and then there were the carvings, and I loved going to the mandir. Old stone carvings have always fascinated me. I just feel like I'm transferred to another world when I visit such places. And I was fascinated by the beauty of the mandir. And again, it had this open angan, which is basically an open courtyard. So you climbed some stairs, then there was a long courtyard, and then there was the mandir, the actual mandir. And in that courtyard, there was a silk cotton tree. So that was another very beautiful tree. And we even collected the silk cotton and stuffed a little pillow with it. There was a very tiny cushion or pillow that we made with it. So that is something I remember from living over there. So the field, one side it bordered the road, the other side there was a neighboring farmer, Sasane. So the neighboring field was his, and the third border was the stream, and then towards the front of this field was our house, and then there was a cowshed. So bordering the road was our field, and towards the front of our field was our house, and then there was a cross section road leading up to our house and then another neighbor's house. And then from the house, an open courtyard which was just mud, and then the cowshed. If I remember correctly, there were about a dozen to 15 cows at the time that we had bought this farm. And the cows each had names, and their names were painted on the wall in front of their stalls. So it was one big semi-open cowshed. There were fans in it, and I remember we used to play the radio for the cows, and it used to be Vivid Bharti, all of those old Hindi songs. So the fan and the radio, it was supposed to keep the cows happy and calm. And they had the names of the heroines of that time. So I remember one was called Meenakshi, one was called Hema, Lakshmi, Sudha, one was called Rathi. Rathi was really scary. She was huge, she was so tall, and she had these enormous long horns. And I was scared of her, and she was like a little aggressive. Monica was the sweet red cow. She was completely red and she did not have horns. I loved Monica. Somehow I just felt bonded with her. I just found her so sweet. I just loved Monica. Sudha was a Desi Indian cow, but she was scary and aggressive. The others were Houston. I don't know if how you pronounce it, Houston, Houston, but they were those imported cows, whereas Sudha was a Desi cow, a little tinier than the others. So next to the cowshed, we had created this biogas unit. So what we did every day was you was to collect all the droppings of the cows, the cow dung, and then you mixed it with water, and then you poured it into this biogas receptacle, and then this would go down. There was a pit, a deep pit, probably 10 or 20 feet deep, I'm not sure. And then the gas would be formed when the cow dung was just sitting in that pit, I guess. And then that gas from the cow dung was used in cooking in our house. So there was a huge open pit with a kind of liquidy cow dung, and it also, I guess, at the top the layer would dry up, obviously. And there was next to the, on the other side of the cow shed, there was a tank created for the cows to drink water. So this was a tall tank, probably 5 feet tall if I'm not mistaken. So the cows could just stand there every evening. They would come out of their cow shed one by one, and then one of my parents would take a pipe and bathe the cow every day, and then each one would drink from that tank to her heart's content, and then she would go back to her stall and the next cow would come. So that is how it was. There was the water tank. So what we also did was, that unit was just a single room. So we created a kitchen next to it, and this was a cemented kitchen. So I remember when the kitchen was constructed, every day we were supposed to kind of moisten the cement. You're supposed to keep the cement wet so that it strengthens nicely. So I kind of remember that someone or the other would be like spraying water with a pipe on that new kitchen. I think I also did that a couple of times. And then there was just a muddy area between the cowshed and our house. So what we used to do, we would, again, like cow dung was used, we would mix cow dung with water, then take a broom and just spread the cow dung in that muddy area between the house and the cowshed. So then it was kind of like a floor. It was better than it just being mud. So that was done. From the road towards the house also was like a muddy area. There also we used to put cow dung. So it created like a layer which resembled a kind of floor. And then we could sweep over it and all. You could treat it like a floor, which was better than it being just dusty mud that would fly around. So that was another feature of that house. Then, like I had mentioned, that unit, which was a single room, had an open front yard. So what we would do was, there was something called karvi sticks. There were these Adivasis, or the local tribals of that area. So to earn money, what they would do is, from the jungles, they would collect these tall karvi sticks, and they would tie them into bundles and walk around with those bundles on their head and try to sell them. So people would buy those karvi sticks and they would put them around their front courtyard, that open yard. They would push them into the ground, and then people would kind of create like a temporary room. So those karvi sticks would then be smeared with cow dung. So that would form like a kind of room. And what some other people did, which we did, was you put the karvi sticks around your front yard, and then we used to grow a creeper on that. That creeper was called tondli or tendli. So that's a vegetable that we eat in India. So that creeper would grow over those karvi sticks. So that also gave you a feeling that you were in a room, a kind of privacy feel, rather than it being just an open courtyard. So I remember that my mom worked very hard to look after that farm. She was young, she was inspired, she wanted dad's business to succeed. So I remember she would wake up very early, like 4 a.m., to milk all the cows. And then there were little calves, the babies. Oh my God, we loved playing with them. They were so sweet. Oh, it was just the sweetest thing to play with those little babies, the cows. Loved them so much. And mom was so meticulous. Like I said, she probably, you could say she has OCD. So she would keep the cowshed so spick and span. And one incident stands out in my mind, which is that she had just finished washing the cowshed and it was completely, like, absolutely clean. Not a speck of dust, not a speck of dirt. And then this poor cow, probably Minakshi or someone, she wanted to poop. And mom being mom, she did not want the poop splattering on the floor, the stone cobbled floor of her freshly cleaned cowshed. So mom went running and mom put her hand under the cow where the poop was falling. And the poor cow got so confused that she started pooping. And then, when she kind of figured out that the poop is not splattering down, she stopped mid poop. And mom thought the cow was done pooping and relieved mom, like she literally caught the poop in her hands and the cow dung. And then mom took it and went out to put it into the biogas thingy. And then when the cow figured out that okay, now the person is gone, mom is gone, she then continued pooping. To mom's dismay, all that cow dung fell to the floor, and that was something poor mom was avoiding. So that happened. So mom kept her cowshed and that house and that farm so neat and clean. She worked very hard on it, which was not the temperament of the local people over there. The people were kind of sloppy, you know. They were not like mom was jatti, Punjabi, hardworking, inspired. And there was a show at that time. We used to have a single channel on TV called Doordarshan. So there was a local Maharashtrian one, and it had some Marathi programs. And one of those programs, which I think was telecast at about 7 p.m., was called Amchi Mati Amchi Mansa. So that was about Shetkari, farmers and stuff. So now this TV documentary unit came to our farm to showcase this government project. So they wanted to show that, look, the government has done this project, they have created this area for the farmers, and you know how well they are doing now. So basically, probably pro government, whatever the program was. So this Amchi Mansi Mati Amchi Mansa unit came, and they filmed our fields, they filmed our cows, and they told us, okay, now let the cows into the fields, into the grass. And at that time there was something called paragrass. So it was that was the thing we used to feed the cows. So then they were made to stand in the field. So the documentary was being filmed, and then afterwards that team wanted to interview the farmer whose field it was. Like it was literally in that entire Dapchari, ours was the best cows, the neatest, cleanest, healthiest cows, the best farms, the best fields. So when they wanted to interview dad, they wanted him to say, like they were trying to groom him for the show, and they wanted him to say that, you know, say how much the government has supported you and how good they are to you and how beneficial the government has been to you. And dad being dad, he's like, no, the government is doing nothing, there's no support, no help, we're doing all of this on our own. And the documentary team tried a few times to get dad to say what they wanted him to say, but he wouldn't. So then what they did, they interviewed the neighbor, Sasane. They went to his house, they interviewed him. So when that documentary film of Amchi Mati Amchi Mansa was made, it was our field, our cows, and then the interview was of Sasane. So that was funny, and that's how these, TV things have been working even then. Reality, but not really reality. That's how it has been. So I have many memories from living in Dapchari, but what I'm not sure is which are the memories when we lived there full time and which are the memories from later. Because we lived there probably for a couple of years, and then after that what we did was we had to move, but we did have that farm for many more years. So we would go there for weekends, vacations, whenever we had time, we would go there. So I have lots of memories from that place, but I'm not sure about the sequence, which memories are from when we lived there full time and which ones are from later. So I will tell you more about life at Dapchari in the next episode. Until then, goodbye, dear viewers. Please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not yet subscribed. And please share this video with others if you found it interesting. All right. Bye bye. Stay healthy. Stay happy. Bye, dear viewers.